It's been some time since I last spoke to you right here on the All Andy Alfred YouTube channel. Of course, you can see got some trim job done, a little bit of hair off the top of the head, but nothing's changed with regarding of how I feel about sports, including the fish. We'll talk about this past weekend's rallying in the pond, is what I call it. We'll talk about it tonight. Also look ahead to what tomorrow night will look like for the fish, as well as the rest of the East Coast Hockey League. We have Game 7 happening tonight between the Sabres and the Canadiens. I've been keeping check on that all throughout the evening, and I'll give you the update. And to talk a little bit about the Western Conference Finals as well. I watched an NBA game yesterday. I'll talk a little bit about the Cavs and Pistons as well. But we have a new champion in the PGA. And the Tigers, Guardians, getting the job done. Beating the Reds 2 out of 3. The Tigers struggling against the Blue Jays and struggling against the Guardians tonight. And the Reds are in Philadelphia struggling against the Phillies. And no Triple Crown this year. We have all that to discuss tonight right here on All Andy Alfred, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. Whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight and hearing what's happening in the sports world as well as what's happening in my everyday life. You could follow the show and be a part of the show by following us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred, as well as Facebook.com/All Andy Alfred, and as well as on YouTube, YouTube.com/All Andy Alfred. So welcome into the podcast tonight on this, the 18th day of May, 2026. And for the first time in a while, I can say, I love you guys. And welcome into the show tonight, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. Lots to get into tonight. Of course, we'll recap the 151st running of the Preakness. We'll also take a look at the PGA Championship as well as the Queen City Championship for the LPGA with our golf roundup presented by our good friends at Scramble Stick. Also, we'll dive into the continuing woes that are the Detroit Tigers and the Guardians, who are battling pretty well, as well as the Reds as well. In this whole discussion, we'll talk a little pro wrestling. I know I want to sprinkle a little bit of it into it tonight, especially what's going to happen this weekend in the city of Fort Wayne, and I'll get into that in just a second. Also, I want to dive into what's happening in my life as well, and Andy rants you can't afford to miss. So again, you can be a part of the show by following us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred. And on Facebook.com/All Andy Alfred. Also on our YouTube channel as well. So, lots to get into tonight, of course. We're going to start first and foremost with the walleye. We're going to start with the walleye first and foremost. If you've been following us on our Facebook Live show, we've been doing every post-game show after the walleye games are done. We've been doing post-game shows from Games 3, Games 4, Games 2, Game 1, and then on Saturday we had Game 5. And what this team looked like on Thursday night after Game 3, and you go to the Facebook page and find that show. I had some communication with some people, and they said, you don't need to be that passionate, don't need to be that loud, don't need to be that frustrated about this because you're going to stroke yourself out because of it. Well, here's the thing. That's passion. I have real passion for the city and for the minor league system in the city. I mean, we haven't won a championship in the city, like a true championship, since 2006 when the Mudhens won back-to-back Governor's Cups in 05 and 06. We haven't won a hockey championship since 1994 when I was 4 years old. We haven't been relevant in hockey now we've been relevant in hockey now since, I say, 2014, 2015, around that realm, when Lalonde came into the situation. So we've been relevant since then. We've been laughed at, mocked at, and teased about from our Zamboni, from the sports arena, the building that the old hockey team used to play at, to now being named after a fish, to our fans being called crybabies and wine buckets when it comes to hard hitting and stuff like that. And for me, I get sick and tired of hearing that. And the fact is, if the league wants us to win a championship, we can win a championship. We can honestly win a championship. And I'm not saying that we would fix that the league was going to fix it, or we're going to, it's all going to line up in the same route. I'm just saying this. The odds for us to win the championship this year were stacked because of our play and our play alone. We can't laughably look through the regular season anymore. And the problem is, too, we're set up in a division that is weak, a weak division. We only have 2 teams that would honestly compete with us throughout the season. That'd be Fort Wayne and Bloomington. Sometimes it'd be Kalamazoo, sometimes it'd be Cincinnati, depending on what the situation is. Indianapolis as well, too. Those teams compete. We had the ending of Iowa at the end of the season. But going into the playoffs this year, there's a lot of us, including myself, some of the season ticket holders, that had a lot of questions going into this playoff run. It got settled in the first round with Bloomington. The opportunity to close out Bloomington, and we did it. And I told you guys here on this podcast that the next test with Fort Wayne was going to be one of the toughest tests. We have 3 mountains to climb. 3 mountains to climb. Fort Wayne being the first one. Second one is, if we get past Fort Wayne, we would play Kansas City, who is the best team in the league this year. And if we get past Kansas City, it depends on who comes out of the East. Would it be Florida? Will it be, Wheeling? Will it be Maine? Will it be South Carolina? A lot of it was put to bed tonight in the East Coast Hockey League, as we're taping this podcast around 10:30, as we're doing it. Like I said, keeping track of that Montreal Buffalo game highly, but with the Fish, we knew that this Fort Wayne series was going to be a difficult one. I knew it, you knew it, everybody knew it, because Fort Wayne on paper is us on paper. And you know what they remind me of? After the third game, they reminded me of the 93 Bulls team. Stronger, better, built better, beating the bad boys, which are of the Detroit Pistons. And then the Pistons basically walking off the court midway point of the fourth quarter because they knew that they got beat. That's how I felt Thursday night. After Toledo lost on Thursday night, I called for everybody. I called everybody to step up. After losing that game 4-2 to Fort Wayne in Fort Wayne. And by the way, the series, the building staff who has really, pardon my language, really screwed the whole system up with this 1-1, 2-2 situation. But it comes back to our favor now more than ever because we have momentum. We have momentum after Fort Wayne beating us in game 1, 4-1. They come back to the Huntington Center on Tuesday night, and I was there Tuesday night. I sat there Tuesday night, and I took every bit of that 3-0 shutout loss. And Janssen played his ass off in that game. Toledo was peppering him in every single way. The first goal, Toledo thought they scored the first goal. The puck went behind him. But the thing is, we have an advantage in Toledo because we have the capability of putting a camera inside the net. ECHL rules only allow the review to happen, from the overhead camera. If they can't see the camera angle from inside the net. They can only see it from above the rink. And they couldn't see it, and they waved it off as a no goal, and it was a no goal. And, you felt like the balloon was a little bit deflated and it was flying around the room. And then Fort Wayne capitalized and beat us 3-0. And then on Thursday, you figure that Toledo would try to bounce back, try to make it somewhat of a series, and they lost 4-2. And again, I called it on this podcast that the veterans have to step up to the plate going into Game 4. Would it be a gentleman's? Would it be Fort Wayne to outright sweep us in 4 straight games? Or would Toledo honestly, try to get back on the horse and do this? When you get into the meat of the game on Friday night, you have the Walleye jump out to the lead with 6 seconds to go in the first period, as Funk gets his second of the campaign from McKinnon and Lewandowski, and Funk just put it into the back of the net. Great individual effort. He puts it into the back of the net. It's 1-0 Fish. And that's where it stood. Toledo outshot him in the first period 16-9. You get into the second period, both teams don't score. A lot of penalties going back and forth between Toledo and Fort Wayne in that second period, with Colin Sawyer getting 2 calls in that period, Nelson getting called, Aliardi getting called. Toledo outshooting them in that period 15-9. And it was Day that was in the net, not Johansson. You figure that maybe Day would get the 4th start because Johansson was playing those 3 straight games. And, the 4th game, they were probably going to rest him. Day hadn't played in a while, so you figured that, maybe we'll give him an opportunity. Then you get into the third. 6:32 of the period, Garrett Van Wah gets his second of the campaign from Dickinson from McCourt on the power play on the Majera penalty call at the 4:51. He got cut with a high stick. It was a 2-minute minor, and it was 2-0 Fish. Now you're saying to yourself I was saying to myself at that point, okay, a 2-goal lead, it's never a safe thing in the East Coast Hockey League. It's never a safe thing in the East Coast Hockey League. And boy, was I right. In the span of 3 minutes, 2 minutes and change, the game completely changed. And the transition game that Fort Wayne loves to play came and bit us in the ass. Majera gets his 6th of the campaign from Dufour and Tutayev. It's 2-1 Fort Wayne at the 10:37 mark of the period. And then Josh Bloom gets his 2nd of the campaign from Imamoto at the 13-minute mark even. It's 2-2. Toledo battles back, but Hawkins gets called for a tripping call at the 1 minute and 30-second mark of the third period. My wife and I were at the game. We were sitting in section 111, behind the net. I turned to my wife after that penalty call. I was like, this is it. This is how the season's going to end, right here. You give Fort Wayne's got the momentum. They have a power play towards the end of the period. There's no way that Toledo can do it. And sure enough, Toledo kills the penalty, and they go to overtime. Toledo shot in that third period by Fort Wayne 17-10. You get into overtime, back and forth action to go, and at the 4:14 mark of the period, Miley gets the pass, brings it into the zone, gives it over to Lewandowski. Lewandowski gives it over to Riley Funk. Funk puts it on Day. It goes off of Day's backside and into the back of the net. And the Walleye survive Game 4 with a 3-2 victory over the Fort Wayne Comets. And by the way, it has just gone final. Alex Montouk becomes the second player in NHL franchise history, I read that right, to have multiple Game 7 clinches in the postseason and ends the run for the Buffalo Sabres. Montreal has beaten Buffalo tonight by the final score of 3-2. Guy Landers started the game, stopped 36 of 38 in the Toledo game against Fort Wayne in Game 4. 36 of 38 save percentage of a .925. Day 42 of 45 save percentage of a .905. 45 shots on goal for Toledo in the game. Fort Wayne had 38. Toledo 1 for 5 on the power play. Fort Wayne 0 for 6 on the power play. 8,021 in attendance. It took 3 hours and change to play it. Van Wyde, the number 3 star. Josh Bloom, the number 2 star. Riley Funk, the number 1 star. Logan Gruel and Jamie Pavera were the referees in the game on Game 4 at the Huntington Center. So the Fish salvage a game out of that. Then you get into the next night. Now, the next night is Game 5. It had to happen because of building availability. Now, Toledo needed to win this game, and they needed to continue to build on what they built on Friday. Ride that momentum going from Game 4 to Game 5, especially with that overtime win. And it helped the case. However, in that game, there was no Carson Bantle. He was scratched from the game. And you had the return of Jalen Smerick back to the Huntington Center in a playoff capability against Fort Wayne. And I'm just going to say this now. Smerick and Aliardi and Dufour are the biggest complainers in the East Coast Hockey League. Every intermission, before the intermission, they were going to the referees and complaining and, pardon my language, bitching and complaining the entire time. The entire time! And I kept saying to myself, just hit the road. Walk off. And by the way, Dufour is he's tall. He's a good scorer. He had the 2 goals in Game 2 against Toledo. He has been quiet ever since, and he was just a complainer the entire game in Game 5. So much so that he gets a game misconduct penalty at the end of the game, and he got tossed for a holding call. He got called on a holding call, bitched and complained to the referees, and so much so that Brian Schneider tossed his ass out of the game and kicked him out. But Toledo did what they needed to do. They continued their route. They continued the momentum, and at the 11:59 mark of the period, Kyle Gaffney, his third of the campaign from Hunsinger, 1-0 Fish. The Fish were flying in the Huntington Center. They flew onto the ice after that one. And then not even a minute and change later, you have Triscott getting his first of the campaign from Hawkins and Waugh. It's 2-0 Fish. You continue on to the period, and right before the end of the close, you have Sam Craigs gives it over to Brandon Cruz, and Cruz capitalizes for his second of the campaign, of the playoff campaign. It's 3-0 Fish after 20 minutes of play. They outshot Fort Wayne 17-9. And by the way, Johansson back in between the pipes for the Comets, which is huge. And by the way, I will give you a tip of the cap to the Fort Wayne fans that made the trek for both Game 4 and Game 5. They filled a little bit in the building. They made some noise for their team, and I will give them props for that. I will give them the just due because of that, for coming over and doing that. They, in Game 3 in Fort Wayne, the broadcasters were saying, get to Toledo. We want to close it out. And they wrote their obituary because of that. But Toledo outshooting them. Fort Wayne outshot Toledo in the first period 17-9, and Guylander again in the net for this one. You get into the start of the second period, and by the way, get into the second, and there was a lot of scrumming, a lot of pushing and shoving. It was going to happen. You've seen this team now 5 times in a row. You're going to see a lot of pushing and shoving, and you saw, like I said, the return of Jalen Smerick to the ice, and you have, after the Cruz goal, 4:37 into the second period, Hawkins gives the pass over to Benoit. He gives it over to Dickinson, and Dickinson buries a pass to Johansson. It's 4-0 Fish halfway through the second period. Before the end of the period, where you have Brown gets the pass over to Smerrick, the place is booing him. He gives it over to Reese, and Reese buries it past Carter Gylander. And I know Gylander wanted that pass back. Reese, his first of the playoffs from Smerrick and Brown, even strength. It's 4-1 Fort Wayne. And then the pleasantries really began in the third period. By the way, Toledo out shooting Fort Wayne in that second period, 11-5. You get into the third, and all hell breaks loose in the third. Craig, you had Stonehouse, who was a menace, a straight up menace in this game, goes in behind the net. Hawkins takes exception. Stonehouse takes exception to Hawkins trying to make the play. Hawkins and Stonehouse, quote unquote, drop the gloves. So there was a lot of pushing and shoving. Both guys get double minors for roughing. And then you get into the later half, and Dufour gets called for the holding call right before the TV timeout at the 16-minute mark of the period. He sits in the penalty box and is just yelling and complaining to the officials about how they're missing this call and missing that call and blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, he gets the old heave-ho from Brendan Schneider. He is gone for the game. And, it then leads into towards the end of the game, and I'll have footage on our Facebook page from it. Right at the end of the game, Feist gets called for a slash. He slashed Lewandowski at the 19:45 mark of the period, which draws the penalty. And then at the horn blows, we have more fisticuffs that happen. Hunsinger's dropping the gloves, a lot of pushing and shoving, a lot of helmets getting ripped off, a lot of yard sale items on the ice. But in the end, the Fish prevail. They beat Fort Wayne 4-1. Out shooting them by 29-28 in the game. Toledo 0 for 4 in the power play. Fort Wayne 0 for 2 on the power play. Gylander 27-28. Save percentage of a .975 for Johansson. 25 of 29. Save percentage of a .895 in the game. By the way, Jalen Smerrick had that one assist, but he was a -2 in the game. Toledo was all positives. Van Wyatt was a +3. And like I said, Schneider and Hayden Verbeek were the referees in the game. 8,004 in attendance at the Huntington Center. 2 hours and 45 minutes took to play the game. Van Wyatt, the number 3 star. Gafferty, the number 2 star, and Carter Gylander, the number 1 star. And that makes sense to have him be the number 1 star with that great performance that he had. Now, we get now into what tomorrow will be. As I do this podcast on the 18th of May, Game 6 will now take place at the Memorial Coliseum, the Jungle, And it's a big series. This is a big game for Toledo. They have to win this one on the road or the season is done. Because if you win Game 6, it's all bets are off for Game 7. You can throw away everything. It's win and you're in, lose and you're on the golf course. And if it comes to it, I told you this on Thursday. We're down 3-0 in the series now, 3-2. We haven't had a team in Toledo history to ever been swept by Fort Wayne. It won't happen now. We haven't had this kind of a comeback since the South Carolina series. You have to go back. I think it would be 2015 or 2016 when we made the first run towards the Kelly Cup, when we beat Wheeling, and then we played South Carolina in the American Conference Championship game, and that was the triple overtime when we lost on the check that turned into the goal that some people say that the kid was offside for. But it's huge. Toledo needs to win this game. They absolutely need to win this game to keep their season alive. It's a huge game for the Fish. 7:15 puck drop at the Memorial Coliseum for this one. 7:35, puck drop for that one. So we'll be on the air post-game on our Facebook Live show for that. If somehow the Fish pull it out and win Game 6, Game 7 will be Wednesday night, 7:35 puck drop for that. If they win, there is a discussion between myself and a few other people. We might make the trek to Fort Wayne for Game 7. That is a possibility. If it is a possibility, we'll let you know on our social media platforms. If we don't make it to Fort Wayne for the game on Wednesday night, my plan is to continue to do the post-game show on our Facebook Live show, but we might, and again, I will say this, we might watch it live streaming here in the Man Cave Studios or upstairs in our living room to watch it, to give you guys my reaction, my in-game reaction. Because Game 7, if it goes to Game 7, all bets are off. Now, again, we have to win tomorrow night. It is huge. It is a must-win. I would like to see the veterans continuing to step up. I love seeing Kreitz and Cruz and Hawkins all stepping up to the plate, but they've got to be better. The youth has got to be better as well, too. Now, you got to go to Gylander for this game, and unfortunately, you have to go for him for Game 7. Even if that means if you win Game 6 and he gets to start in Game 6 and Game 7, and if somehow, some way, we win both games and complete the comeback from down 3-0 over Fort Wayne, we complete the comeback, I would then give Gylander the Game 1 off. Start Yurichek or call Nolan Lalone back. Why hasn't he started? I keep asking that question to people that I know. Why isn't he starting? He led you the whole season. He has one bad start against Wheeling. He gets benched, and he hasn't started ever since. So why isn't he not playing? We know who Toledo or Fort Wayne will play in the next round. That will be Kansas City. Kansas City swept their series against the Allen Americans 4 straight games. They wait the winner of Toledo Fort Wayne, and that will be the winner. The winner of that will play each other for the Western Conference. We now know who is going to be for the Eastern Conference. Of course, Florida taking South Carolina in 5 games. And then tonight you had, here was a big one. Wheeling was up 2-0 in their series against the Maine Mariners. They go to Maine, and Maine takes 3 straight. They take a 3-2 series lead, go back to West Banco. Wheeling wins in overtime over Maine 2-1, and tonight they get the job done and beat Maine tonight by the score of 4-3. So Wheeling will play Florida for the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know. We haven't gotten when that series is going to start. We're waiting on how the Toledo series is going to finish out. But it's good. That series is going to be very interesting because you have all that travel. And you figure it's going to probably be a 2-3-2 series and how that breaks down. But we shall see. But again, all the league is now going to be watching us these next 2 games. And again, the 3 keys for this is we need to continue to set the tone, jump out to the early lead, get more shots on Johansson or Day, whoever Wheeling's going to start with. Number 2, we got to give Gylander the opportunity to see the puck. And, no cheeky penalties and no chippy penalties. Don't let them bait us. If they bait us, they will capitalize, especially in the jungle. That's number 2. And number 3, play with Victor. There's been a post around the fan pages and around the team that says believe in this team. And I believe in this team with it being now 3-2. I had doubts. I will admit it. I will be first to admit it. I'll eat crow with it. If Toledo comes back and wins this series, I'm going to be eating crow for this because of this. But again, we have to win tomorrow. 7:35 puck drop. We will be on live post game, whatever the outcome is, recapping what would happen on the ice for our Toledo Walleye on our Facebook Live show, and we'll have it taped, and it'll be on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Bleaker, Stitcher, however you get our show, wherever you get our show, you'll be able to get the post game for Game 6 tomorrow night, as well as this podcast on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network. So there's that. By the way, also was announced tonight that the Jacksonville Icemen, the new affiliation for the Jacksonville Icemen, are now the Minnesota Wild and the Iowa Wild. Remember, Iowa, the Heartlanders, were the original of that minor league franchise. So there is that for you guys. So there's that. And again, to reiterate, the Fish are down 3-2 in the series against Fort Wayne. Game 6 tomorrow night, 7:35. You can get that on Flow Hockey or listen to it on Fox Sports Radio 1230 WCWA. The Gambler. I think it's going to be on 1230. Or it could be on 1370, depending, because the Mud Hens are playing tomorrow night as well. But that could be all changed because of the weather for tomorrow night as well, too. So there is that for you guys. Again, to reiterate, Montreal getting the huge win in overtime tonight over Buffalo by the score of 3-2. They win the series 4-3. And now we'll move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. And now we have the two matchups set up. It will be Vegas taking on Colorado on Wednesday night, 8 o'clock. ESPN will have the rights to the Western Conference Finals. Colorado and Vegas, Game 1, 8 o'clock. Game 1 in the Eastern Conference Finals will be Montreal traveling to Carolina on Thursday. That game on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. So it's going to go almost every other day. There'll be a playoff game. The 20th, the 21st will be the first 2 days of the West will go first, then the East, then the West, then the East in that realm. And then we'll get further down, another West, East, and then the West, then the East on the 24th and 25th, which will be Memorial Day, and then 26th as well. So there is that for you guys. Also, it was announced today, too, that tickets will go on sale for the Stadium Series on May 21st, which will be on Thursday. The Stadium Series game this year will be in Jerry World between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars in that one. So there is that for you guys. Nothing new out of the Jackets besides the big signing, of course, of Charlie Coyle. That was a huge signing for the Jackets. Huge signing for the Jackets going forward. And now we'll see if they can sign some other key players and help out their roster and build their roster more and more as they go forward. So there's the hockey. Also, the Monsters, a winner on Saturday afternoon against the Toronto Marlies. That series is now tied at 1 game apiece, heading back to the Coca-Cola Center in Toronto, Ontario. And that's a 2-2-1 series, so it's the best of 5 series. And by the way, the Grand Rapids Griffins are down 0-2 in their series against the Chicago Wolves, going now to Rosemont, Illinois, to take as they will be playing the Chicago Wolves in Chicago now in that series. I want to pull that up really, really quickly. American Hockey League. Here it is. American Hockey League, right here. Calder Cup playoffs. Right here we are. Calder Cup. Boom. I don't want flow. Clicked on the wrong click. Yeah, here we go. All right, they will play tomorrow night, Tuesday night in Chicago. That's a 8 o'clock Eastern, 7:05 puck drop in that affair. And like I said, they're down in their series 2-0 in that series with games Tuesday and Thursday in Chicago, and then they go back to Grand Rapids if necessary that Saturday. Toronto and Cleveland, that series tied at 1 apiece. They'll play in Toronto on Wednesday. Then they'll play again in Toronto on Friday. They'll return back to Cleveland if necessary Sunday the 24th, 3 o'clock puck drop for that one. 3 o'clock puck drop for that one. And that could be interesting as well, too. Eastern Conference, by the way, Springfield and Wilkes-Barre Scranton. The winner of that will play either Cleveland or Toronto. In that affair, the Western Conference, it's the winner of the Chicago Grand Rapids series will play either Coachella or Colorado, and Colorado up 2-1 in that series over Coachella. So there's that for you guys as you are watching and listening to another edition of All Andy Alfred right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you listen to us tonight, wherever and whenever you listen to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast tonight. Now let's hit the diamond. Let's talk a little baseball, of course. And let's start with the Tigers. Oh, the Tigers. Oh. You know, it is positive. We have some positive. Skubal did feel comfortable in his bullpen session today at Comerica Park. It was good to see that. But, you know, the Tigers of late are really struggling. They're 20-28 after today's game against the Guardians, and we'll get to that here in a second. But you lose 2 of 3 to Toronto. You have struggled, and I want to pull their recent schedule up, actually, while I have a chance right now. While I'm working on their team. Here it is. Teams. Here it is. Yeah, Skubal encouraged by symptom-free bullpen session at Comerica today. It was good to see that. Here we are. Boom. There it is. Right there. You look at the Tigers and the schedule that they've had. It's not good. I know injuries have killed a lot of this team so far this year and the performances this team has played, but there's no need for this. There really is no need for this. I mean, you look at the month of May. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Get swept in New York by the Mets. The Mets. We got swept by the Mets. Lose 2 of 3 to the Blue Jays. Lose 2 of 3 to the Royals. Lose 3 straight. Get swept by the Red Sox at home. And then win 2 of 3 against the Rangers. And you get into tonight's game. Tonight's game against the Guardians. And you lose 8-2. 8-2 in the game. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I just have a problem with this team and the pitching and the defensive side of things. Now, going forward, you have Valdez that started the game. He got the loss. He's now 2 of 3 with a 4.58 ERA. Cerrone gets the win. He goes to 3 of 4 with a 5.16 ERA in tonight's game. And you look at it, the Tigers had, I can't believe this, they lose 8-2 to the Guardians. 2 runs on 5 hits, no errors. The Guardians, 8 runs, 9 hits, no errors in the game. I mean, Ramirez, 3 for 4 with a homer, a double, and a walk. 3 RBIs driven in. Ricardo was 1 for 2 with a triple in the game. You look at the Tigers had 4 men left on base all game. The Guardians 7. I mean, it's just, I don't know. This I am very worried. Very worried about this team. You look at the rest of the league, and we'll get into the probables here for the rest of the series. Let me get into the probables. Rest of the series. Huh. You think that was funny? Huh. And this. Tomorrow, Montero will start. He's 2-3 with a 3.65 ERA. 6:40 first pitch for the Tigers. Minsick will start for the Guardians. He's 5-1 with a 2.35 ERA. You get to Wednesday's game, 6:40 first pitch, Tanner Beebe. There's a possibility that Detroit could get this win. As Beebe's 0-6 with a 4.15 ERA. He's got 47 strikeouts, though, this season. 47. And then the concluding game of the 4-game series will be Thursday, 1:10 first pitch. Casey Mize, 2-2 with a 2.43 ERA with 39 strikeouts. He'll take on Calito, who's 3-1 with a 3.40 ERA. Then the Tigers will hit the road to play Baltimore in the next series after that. So there's that. The Guardians, after the series against Cleveland, will hit the road and go to Philadelphia for a 3-game set. And let's see here. Their rotation, if I can pull it up really quickly. That chart rotation here is pitching probables. Boom. If I can pull it up really quickly here. So I'm on the podcast here. Probable pitchers. No, not the pipeline. Probable pitchers. In the series with the Phillies going forward, I'm not looking at the pipeline. I'm looking at probables here. I clicked on the wrong thing. Of course, podcast. You gotta love it. Gavin Williams will start the series on Friday in Philadelphia. He's 6-3 with a 3.67 ERA. You figure that Shake Cirone will start on Saturday. With that win tonight, he's 3-4 with a 5.16 ERA. So there's that. The Tigers, for me, I'm just concerned of what Detroit is and what their schedule is. These 4 games against Cleveland. They had the series. They had the next series against Baltimore. Then they had the series after the Baltimore series, which every game is absolutely huge for Detroit. After the Baltimore series, they are home to play the Angels, and then they go to the South Side of Chicago for a 3-game series. Now, if you've been following my Twitter accounts as well, too, our good friend of the podcast, Nick the Money Man DeVera, Nick of Ebre, has been chiming in about these White Sox. And I want to talk about the White Sox here in just a second. Because I'll talk about the White Sox here in just a second after I talk about the Reds. That's the Reds. That's another situation. But the Tigers have the Angels and the White Sox to close out the month of May. You get into the first week of June, 3 games in Tampa, and then 3 games against the American League champion Seattle Mariners, against the Mariners, and then 3 against the Twins. Then they go to Cleveland, go to Houston, 3 against the White Sox, and then 3 against the Yankees. And then 4 against Houston, and then you go to New York. You don't want to play. The schedule is this for me. You always play the Yankees at the beginning of the season because when the Yankees get hot and when the weather gets warm, they get hot. They get hot. And that is a problem. That is a huge problem when it comes to that. But other than the Tigers with their problems, the Guardians doing pretty well. I'll give you that, and I'll give you the standings here in just a second. But the Reds losing tonight to the Phillies by the score of 5-4. I watched a little bit of this game. This game was on CW, the CW network here in Toledo. I watched some of it, and Francona has his rotation posted out. It's they have 3 against Philadelphia, then they have 3 against 4 against the Cardinals, 3 against the Cardinals. So after the loss tonight for Nick Lodo, who's now 0-1 with a 7.20 ERA and 11 strikeouts, it'll be Chase Burns on the bump tomorrow, 5-1 with a 1.87 ERA. He's got 55 strikeouts this season. He'll take on Jesus Luzardo, who's 3-3 with a 5.07 ERA. And Mattingly has been playing this team very, very well. Very, very well. Got this team above 500 now. And then you have on Wednesday, it will be at Andrew Abbott, 3-2 with a 4.21 ERA, taking on Aaron Nola, who's 2-3 with a 5.91 ERA. The series starting on Friday for the Reds at home for Memorial Day weekend. It will be Chris Paddock for the Reds. He's 0-5 with a 7.07 ERA and 30 strikeouts. And the Cardinals have not yet named the starters for both Friday and Saturday, and the Reds have not yet named the starter for Saturday's game as well. And you look at their schedule, the rest of the way out for the month of May and into June. After the Philadelphia series, it's 3 games against the Cardinals. And after the Cardinals series at Great American Ballpark, they then they go on the road to play the Mets, come back home to play the Braves for 3. And then the month of June starts off with 3 games at home against the Royals, 3 games on the road at St. Louis. And then here's a weird one. They go out to San Diego after the St. Louis series, come back home to play the Diamondbacks for 3, and then the Mets for 3. Then they go to the Bronx to take on the Yankees, home to the Brewers, then road to the Pirates, and road to the Brewers to end the month of June. You look at the standings going in to today, the rest of today's play. And by the way, recapping some other scores for around Major League Baseball today, and I'm going to get to the White Sox here in just a second. Top 9, Rockies are up on the Rangers 7-6. Bottom 7, we got a possible happening between the Sacramento A's and the Angels, as that's 0-0 at the end of 7 innings. Padres are up 1-0 on the Dodgers. That's a big series because both teams are 1-2 right now. You have the Astros up, losing to the Twins 6-2. Giants are losing to the Diamondbacks big 12-2. Finals tonight, you have the Rays up shellacking the Orioles 16-6. Marlins a 12-0 beatdown on the Braves. The Mets put up 16 runs in the game to beat the Nationals 16-7. The Yankees a 7-6 win over the Blue Jays. Red Sox a 3-1 win over the Royals, and the Cubs get beat up by the Brewers by a score of 9-3. And then you have the team on the south side. They're battling right now. Bottom of the 6th inning in St. Louis. They're up 3-0. Bottom of the 6th inning. And speaking of the White Sox, let's talk about the White Sox really quickly, because I know I've been getting this chatter from our good friend Nick the Money Man DeVera. The White Sox are in 2nd place in the American League Central at 24-22, a game and a half out of 1st place in the American League Central. 2 games up in the wild card race right now. You look at the White Sox, their schedule has really helped them out tremendously. And the big one for me this past weekend, they had all of Major League Baseball have rivalry weekend this past weekend. So you had all the rivalry matchups. Of course, you had the Subway Series between the Yankees and the Mets. You had the Battle of LA between the Dodgers and the Angels. You had the battle, the crosstown rivalry between the Cubs and the White Sox. The White Sox walked off the Cubs on Sunday with the 9-8 win. They took 2 of 3 from the North Siders. They've been on a tear. They swept the Royals. They took 2 of 3 from the Mariners. It doesn't help that they lost 2 of 3 to the Angels, but they took 2 of 3 from the Padres in San Diego. And you look at their schedule, they've got 3 against the Mariners right now, and they're unfortunately losing to the Mariners right now 3-0. In Seattle, you have 3 against the Giants, which are, the Giants aren't good this year. 4 against the Twins, 3 against the Tigers to end the month of May. You get into June, you're in Minnesota, 3 against the Phillies, who are very, very tough. Then you have 3 against the Braves, and then 3 at home against the defending champion, Los Angeles Dodgers, before you go to New York for 3, come to Detroit for 3, and host the Guardians for 3. And then 3 against the Royals, and then you finish out with 3 against the Orioles to end the month of June. But again, I reiterate it again. The White Sox are sitting right now in second spot at 24-22. Guardians are 27-22. The Twins are 21-26. They're 5 games out of first place, and the Tigers are 20-28, tied with the Royals at 20-28 for 4th in the Central. They're 3 games out of a wild card spot. This is bad. I know once we get to the 50 game mark, we can make a prediction on what the season looks like. We're 2 games short of the 50 game mark. This ain't good. By Memorial Day, you know who's real and who's a fake. I'll tell you who else is real. The Athletics are real. Sacramento is for real. 23-23. I mean, you look at all baseball right now. There's not really the Rays are 31-15, and the Yankees are 29-19. The par serve division is the AL East with these juggernauts. 2 teams in that division are above 500. In the American League Central, there's 2 teams in that division that are above 500, and 1 team in the American League West that is at 500, and the Sacramento Athletics. And then you look at the National League, 2 teams in the NL East, the Braves and the Phillies are above 500. The National League Central, you have 4 teams in that division that are above 500. The Cubs are 29-19. The Brewers are 27-18. St. Louis is 27-19, and the Pirates are 24-23. And then in the West, Dodgers, Padres are the only 2 teams in the National League West that are above 500. And so there's a lot of parity this year. And you can always make a judgment call on who's for real and who's a fake come Memorial Day. And right now, the stork is trending in the White Sox, the Athletics, the Rays, the 3 teams out of the American League. And you look at the East, the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Phillies. Those 3 teams right there are the teams that you got to watch out for once we get further down the road. So we'll see what happens. Again, 3-game series for the 4-game series for the Guardians and the Tigers. And again, it will be Montero and Missick tomorrow. Beebe will start on Wednesday. The Tigers have not yet named the starter. Thursday, it will be Casey Mize for the Tigers and Joey Calirado for the Guardians in that series for that. So there's that for you guys. By the way, want to make a short plug. Of course, the Mud Hens are home this week. They will take on Indianapolis for 6 games starting tomorrow night, 6:35 first pitch for that one. It's the first Hens and Hounds night, but there is a possibility of rain tomorrow night, so be prepared for that. It could be that. They have a Indy for 6:35 tomorrow. Should be 6:05 tomorrow. Then 11:05 on Wednesday, 6:35 on Thursday, 7:05 on Friday, the 7:05 on Saturday, and 5:35 on Sunday, and then they will play Columbus on Monday, Memorial Day, 5:05 first pitch for that one. Then they'll have the day off on Tuesday. They'll play Columbus on Wednesday at 11:05, and then 6:35, 7:05, 7:05, and 2:05 will be the slate for that. The Mud Hens, as of right now, I want to get you a record really quickly. They were in Omaha. 2, 3, 4. They lost the series 4-2 to Omaha in that series. So, and if I get you really quickly, here it is. Mud Hens standings as of right now. Toledo right now sitting down mid-pack in the International League West at 22-23. The team in the leading the division is Memphis at 27-18. Louisville is 26-19. Nashville 26-19. Gwinnett 26-19. St. Paul 23-21. Columbus is 23-22. Toledo 22-23. Omaha is 21-23. Iowa's 18-26. Indianapolis, who Toledo will play for the next 6 days, is 18-27. In the East right now, it is Worcester at 23-20. They're in second place. The Rochester Red Wings, who are 25-20. Scranton is 23-20. Jacksonville's 24-21. Syracuse 23-21. Buffalo 23-22. Charlotte is 22-23. The Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, the Philadelphia Phillies affiliation, is 20-25. Durham, the Bulls, are 19-26, and Norfolk is 18-27. That's what the standings says through the first half of the season so far. But Mud Hens are home tomorrow night, 6:05 first pitch, the first Hens and Hounds night for the Mud Hens. And well, there is a watch party happening also at Fleetwood's for Game 6 of the Walleye game tomorrow night as well. That puck drop again 7:35 as the Walleye are down 3-2 to the Fort Wayne Comets in that affair. As you are watching and listening to All Andy Alfred today right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's talk a little golf with our good friends of Scramble Stick. Of course, it's time for our golf recap presented by our good friends at Scramble Stick and the new Scramble Stick clip. Whether it is a perfect, for me, I love my Scramble Stick clip. It attaches to the front strut of my golf cart. I use it for every scramble that I use. I even use it when I play best ball, or when I want to take a second shot, when I know that there's a group ahead of me, I want to take a second shot, and I, hit a second shot for it. I use my stick, and I pick up my ball in that round. So visit our good friends at scramblestick.com for ordering information and order your Scramble Stick as well as your Scramble Stick clip. And coming soon, our Scramble Stick Caddy, where you can put your cigar and your phone on. Get ready for that. That's coming in 2027. So there's that, of course. Time for our golf recap. And, of course, the second major took place this past weekend at the PGA Championship at Erard Golf Club in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. The previous winner was Scotty Scheffler. And the new winner this year is a new guy of Austin Ra at 9 under par. He wins the tournament. John Rahm finishes in second. Smiley finishes 6 under par, tie for second. Justin Thomas 5 under par. Schmidt finishes 5 under par as well, to tied for fourth. Let's see here. I can load it up here. Perfect. Go full screen. There it is. Ludwig Ahlberg, who I absolutely love. This kid is going to be top tier. I had a lot of futures in him in the Masters. It didn't pan out for that, but he played very, very well in this tournament in the PGA Championship. He finishes 5 under par, tied for 4th as well. Cameron Smith tied for 7th, finishes at 4 under par, along with, why won't that let me? My apologies to everybody here. I don't want. I don't understand why that won't let me go down. There we go. There we go. It's Cameron Smith 4 under par. Xander Schauffele 4 under par. Rory McIlroy finishes 4 under par. Justin Rose finishes tied for 10th at 3 under par with Patrick Reed, Chris Goddard, Kurt Kitamara, and Matt Fitzpatrick finishes 2 under par. Scotty Scheffler finishes tied for 14th at 2 under par as well. You had Jordan Spieth finishing 1 under par, tied for 18th. With Stefan Younger and David Puig, as well as Harrison English, Min Woo Lee, and Maverick McNeely. Sam Burge, Hideki Matsuyama, Cameron Young, all finishes even par. Nick Taylor finishes even par. Shane Lowry, 2 over par for his round. He finishes tied for 44. Dustin Johnson, 2 over par, finishes his round. Brooks Koepka, 3 over par, finishes his round. Jason Day, 6 over par. He finishes his round. Ricky Fowler, 4 over par as well, tied for 60th in the round. Wyndham Clark, a lot of players did not make the cut in this tournament. Russell Henley and Wyndham Clark were a few of those players that did not make the weekend, this past weekend, in the PGA Championship. Also, gotta plug it really quickly. The LPGA was in action in the area. They were in the Queen City of Cincinnati this past weekend. Did a fantastic job. I got to say, City of Cincinnati did a fantastic job. And it is a new winner for the tournament, as Lottie Wood wins the tournament by scoring 12 under par. She finishes in first place. Hideki Ryu finishes 10 under par. Yashida finishes 9 under par. Doherty tied for 5th at 7 under par with Jinyo Ko. And at 6 under par, Gino Tedevicka finishes 6 under par. Nelly Korda 5 under par, tied for 8th with Jennifer Kupcho, Lydia Ko, and also Riju Choi. 4 under par for Rose Zhang, as well as Yu as well. Tied for 16th with Patty Pantham, Ryan O'Toole, Celine Boutier, Asia Stark. Tied for 21st was Mel Blanc as well, and Patty Talavanikit finishes also at 2 under par as well too in the tournament. I'm trying to find the name. Leonor McGuire tied for 33rd, even par with Lindy Duncan as well. Let's see. Paula Delacour finishes tied for 40th at 1 over par. Charlie Hall finishes tied for 40th at 1 over par. Nasa Hadaoka, 2 over par, tied for 47th in the round. Let's see. Jin Lee 6, 2 over par, tied for 47th. Jody Enrich Standoff, 3 over par, tied for 54th. Jerome Dryberg, 3 over par, tied for 54th in her round. Lexi Thompson, coming out of retirement to play in this tournament, tied for 54th, 3 over par for that one. Anna Northquist, tied for 69th at 5 over par. Allison Corpus, 5 over par as well too in the tournament as well too. Eddie Askoff misses the cut at 3 over par on Saturday, staying with Jasmine Sumanapura. Looking for a few big names, of course, in this tournament. While Sand finishes in, Lauren Conklin 4 over par, misses the cut. Yuka Sasso misses the cut. Jin Lee 5 misses the cut at 5 over par. Gina Kim 6 over par, misses the cut. And I want to see if anybody else. Brooke Matthews 12 over par, misses the cut. And Daniel Kang, unfortunately, withdrew from the tournament as well. So Yeah, Lottie Wood, 12 under par, wins the tournament. She wins $300,000 for the tournament. And yeah, it was a great round. Now the ladies will now make the trek. They'll continue on in their tournament. They'll play in the ShopRite tournament, which is this upcoming weekend, the 29th through the 31st, actually. Excuse me, my apologies. And the recent winner of that one was Jennifer Kupcho, finishing 12, 15 under par in the tournament. That's the next tournament for them. And then after that, it will be the U.S. Women's Open that will take place June 4th through the 7th. And then June 11th through the 14th, they're in Midland, Michigan for the Dow Championship. And then they're at Belmont Briarfield Country Club June 18th through the 21st in Michigan for the Meyer LPGA Classic for Simply Give. So that is the golf schedule going forward. Of course, in 2 weeks will be the Memorial Tournament after Memorial Day for the PGA. That will be in Dublin. So they're playing that accordingly. So a lot of golf happening around the Ohio and Michigan areas, professional-wise, going forward. So there's that for you. Also, got to make mention of this. Of course, the Preakness Stakes took place this past weekend. It took place not at Pimlico, but at Laurel Park, as Pimlico is under major redevelopment, which will be Laurel Park will be the spot for the next couple of years, with Pimlico being rebuilt. So the race was won by Napoleon Solo, who opened up at a 10-1 odds. It's trained by Chad Summers, rode by Placio Lopez in the race. It wins the race, and of course, Golden Tempo did not race in the Preakness Stakes, and let's see, it was Napoleon Solo, Iron Honor by Chad Brown second, and then it was Chip Cho at third place, and yeah, it's sad to see that it's sad to see that the Preakness was. And it did not get a good rating. It did not get a good rating because of the withdrawal of Golden Tempo. But the next race after that will be the Belmont, and the Belmont is going to be run again, Saratoga, for the last time, because next year it will be back at Belmont Park for the race. But it was Napoleon Solo, Iron Honor, Chip Cho, and then O'Salley, who was in the Derby, finishes his fourth with Tyler Gaffalion on the mount on that one. Then Incredible in fifth. By the way, it was Great White to run in the race. He finishes in eighth in that race. And if you had Napoleon Solo to win on a dollar bet, it was a $17.80 win. The place was $9.80. The show was $7.40. If you hit the trifecta, which is the 10, 9, 6 at $1 won you $597.10. If you hit the super high 5, 10, 9, 6, 2, 12, $12,015.70. Unbelievable. But again, they did not race at Pimlico. It was at Laurel Park because of the construction at Pimlico. So there is that. And like I said, it was 2 weeks after the Derby, so it will be now 4 weeks until the Belmont, which will take place at Saratoga this upcoming year. So there's that for horse racing wise. Want to plug this, of course, too, with pro wrestling happening. This upcoming Saturday night at the Coliseum in Fort Wayne. It will be Saturday night's main event to take place, and we have some matches that have been announced. Of course, Penta, the Intercontinental Champion, will face All Ego Ethan Page for the Intercontinental Championship match. You also have the Street Profits facing off against Austin Theory and Logan Paul for the World Tag Team Championships. You also now have it was announced today that it will be Becky Lynch versus Soruka for the Women's Intercontinental Championship match. So that has been announced as well in that affair. And you also have a 6-woman tag match between Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss versus B-Fab, Michin, and Jade Cargill. As of right now, that is as of right now for Saturday night's main event. As Monday Night Raw is on the air tonight, those are the matches that have been announced for the matches for Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event that will take place in Fort Wayne, Indiana, this upcoming Saturday night, and tickets are still available for it. Tickets are plenty available for it. Yeah, that looks like that's all the cards that I'm seeing right now for it. And if I'm looking at it right now on the WWE page, showtime is 7:30. It will be on Peacock starting at 8 o'clock. So there is that. That's bell time will start at 7:30. So there is that. And so we'll see how that all shakes out for that. Like, I'm double checking the Fort Wayne card right here. Yep, here it is. Oh, so apparently it's saying that Becky Lynch and Soruka will be a non-title match, but that's according to, I don't know who's that. Is that recording to? Oh, we're recording to Wikipedia. So, here we go. So that's how it's all going to shake out. But the Penta match is going to be very interesting, and to see how that's going to shake out. I want to see how the Rhea Ripley match is going to go, and how that's going to blend in together with that. I think it's going to be interesting with Jade going forward with the storyline. Yeah, it is. It is an Intercontinental Championship match. You also have, it was announced too tonight, Scream Mode. Paige and Brie Bella versus the Irresistible Forces, which is Nia Jax and Lash Legend. So you have 3 women's matches and 2 men's matches as of right now for this card. I in my opinion, I think that they need to add another match to this card. Even if it's a tag match with either Cody Rhodes or with let's say there was talk of Kip Wilson doing a meet and greet in Fort Wayne for Wheatley Vodka. I figured that would come into play with a Danhausen match. You got to keep riding the hand that Danhausen's feeding right now, so I kind of figured that's where it's going to go. But we shall see. But we also found out tonight it will be tribal combat between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. I saw that as a match. Was made official tonight at Clash of Italy. You're also going to see Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the main event at Clash of Italy as well. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all shakes out going forward. How it all goes forward and all goes forward so far. So that's how I see it right here on All Andy Alfred, right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning in. And now it's time to talk a little bit about what's happening in my life. Of course, everything going very, very well. I have a doctor's appointment this upcoming week, so I'll get to see our good friend Missy as well. Got to visit Dr. Yaya over there at Yaya Smiles right there in Rossford. They're getting ready for the big construction projects that are happening in Rossford. Yours truly's got a filling he's got to have to get taken care of, but our good friend Stacy and all the crew over there at Yaya Smiles, they do a fantastic job. And goes to visit them, find them on Facebook, Yaya Smiles, and to find all their information as well. yeah, it's been an interesting weekend. I had the walleye both Friday and Saturday, and I've had people come up to me and say that my rant on from Game 3, you know, really really was a little bit too much when it comes to stuff like that. I had a couple Hall of Famers that come up to me and say that, and I've said it in passing to some people, and I just say that sports is a passion for me. I love talking about sports. I love talking about what's happening in my life, and you know, like I said, we need a champion in the city. We need a champion because high school sports is great, and you know the Rockets, of course, and Bowling Green, they do fantastic job of college sports. But those players move on, and when you see your team, in your city's colors, that you go pay your money for, and you put down money for, and they win a championship, it means so much more, so much more to that. So there's that. So again, I will continue to rant and rage about the walleye and about a champion for the city. A champion for the city. So there's that. Of course, again, the White Sox continuing to find their ways. Again, tomorrow night, Game 6 of the Central Division Final at the Memorial Coliseum between the Toledo Walleye and the Fort Wayne Comets. 7:35 puck drop for that one. We will be on the air post game on our Facebook Live, recapping the game from start to finish. We'll cover it all. Win, lose, or draw. And then if they win Game 7, check our social media platforms and we will let you know what the plan will be for Game 7 in regarding of such. So want to give a special shout out to my good friend Logan Carr, our Robert Logie Bear Carr, who goes on our podcast. It's his birthday today. I want to wish him a very happy birthday. Also, I want to special shout out to my beautiful wife Amanda. I love you. I appreciate everything you do for us, and to all the veterans for this Memorial Day coming up. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, your family, and all the people who made the ultimate sacrifice in protecting our country. I thank you for the bottom of my heart. So again, that I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Jay Wallets. Congratulations on his retirement. I had tickets for Kaleidoscope. I couldn't make it because of Game 5. I was down the block, but I want to congratulate Mr. Wallets, Jay Wallets, on a terrific career in teaching, and I thank him for every bit of it. And I want to give another shout out to my good friend Chris Dyer and my friend John Shinover, who just recently got married. So congratulations, John, and to the missus. Best wishes for everything for you guys going forward. So love you guys so much. So that's going to be all for All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred podcast. I've got a good timing of a show tonight. We will be on the air again tomorrow, Facebook Live for Game 6's recap. We will be on the air back here on our YouTube channel on, I want to say Thursday, but don't quote me on it. It could be Thursday or Friday. I'll let you guys know. Also depends on how the walleye do. But look forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow night and recapping the walleye. Hopefully we can continue on and see if they can continue to get to Game 7 on Wednesday night. But we got to take it one game at a time, one shift at a time during the one period at a time. So until I talk to you guys tomorrow night on All Andy Alfred, on the All Andy Alfred post-game show, this is Andy Alfred saying I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together. The game of life. Keep your stick on the ice. And to the teams you root for at home, and to my teams, go Jackets! The Walleye, get the job done at Fort Wayne. Let's get to Game 7. Go Tigers, go Guardians, go Reds, and go Hens. Go Falcons. How about that hockey schedule? Playing Denver January 1st and 2nd. the national champions come to the Slater family ice house. And the home opener against Michigan, somebody's going to be buying some season tickets. And more birdies and less bogeys, because victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great week, everybody. And if I don't talk to you guys tomorrow night, this is Andy Alfred saying I love you guys. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Love you, babe.